Welcome to TechSoup Talks. Today's webinar is using Second Life to collaborate and connect. We'd like to thank ReadyTalk for sponsoring this webinar series. And my name is Tammy Griffiths. I'd like to introduce our speakers today. We've got a fantastic lineup of people who have been using Second Life for many years and are loving it and want to share all of the information they know with you today. So I'm going to get started by asking Susan Tenby from TechSoup to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does.
Hi, I'm Susan Tenby from TechSoup. I'm the Online Community Director and founder of the Nonprofit Commons. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a quick overview of what Second Life is. So Second Life is an online 3D virtual world where all the content is created by the inhabitants. You can't hear me?
So just a quick bio about what you do here at TechSoup.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I'm the Online Community Director and I am the founder of the Nonprofit Commons, and I manage all the online social media and Nonprofit Commons efforts as well as our online community efforts at the organization.
Great. Thank you so much. And Renne, can you introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Renne Brock-Richmond, and I'm a visual artist and college instructor, and I'm using Second Life as a means to create community and encourage people to participate more as a social media and to connect with folks. It's a great medium, and what I find is that every moment you're in Second Life is a teachable moment, and I just love that. In the physical world, I'm an arts advocate, and I try to encourage people to use technology to make those connections. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And Jessica Daly, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Jessica Daly, and I work at Community Voicemail in Seattle, Washington at our national offices. We use Second Life to help tell our story, and I'll talk more about that later, so I'll leave it at that.
Fantastic. And I'd also like to thank Becky and Megan from TechSoup who are answering chat questions via ReadyTalk, and Yvonne and Leal who are working in Second Life right now to stream this and then answer questions within Second Life. Just a quick run through of our agenda for the next 55 minutes. We're going to go over what Second Life is, the benefits, how it can integrate with social media tools, how you get started. I know there were some questions earlier in the chat about how do I set up an avatar. We'll be talking about that. We'll be giving examples of how nonprofits and libraries are using Second Life. We'll talk about the technical requirements, and we'll tell you all about Nonprofit Commons and our future plans here. So now I'd like to get started by asking Susan if you could give us an overview of Second Life, what Second Life is, and what happens there.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about the jump start, but as I was mentioning before, we're an online 3D virtual world where all of the content on the world is created by the inhabitants. Second Life is. The platform just celebrated its 7th birthday, and it's really a social creative space. And it continues to grow in popularity and in member number. It's an international community. A global audience has about 70,000 users logging in at one concurrent moment. What they're doing, they're attending live concerts, attending lectures, classes, parties, creating machinima, which are mixed media movies kind of created in the world, doing all the things we would do in online social networking in general, and forming lasting collaborations and partnerships. But the difference between Second Life and Facebook or MySpace, for example, is that it's an immersive space where a user can actually travel through a space or in the virtual world. And in a live chat situation, you aren't able to inhabit a space. But in Second Life, you can travel to any location with a quick teleport action. And the user accounts are also different because they're embodied avatars. I'm sure you all saw the movie Avatar. So in Second Life, you can create your own avatar. These avatars and all the content in the virtual world, as I mentioned, are created by the users. But you don't have to be a tech genius to do it. You just have to be able to know what you want, because the only limit is really the only limit on the visual representation is the imagination of the creator. So if I want something, I can get someone else to build it for me. If I can't do it myself, I just have to have an idea of what I want. And another important distinction between Second Life and other online social networks is that there's a real virtual economy where users buy and spend real money. Linden Lab, the company that's the parent company of Second Life, predicted that the user-to-user economy for Second Life in 2009 was $450 million. And in 2008, virtual goods entrepreneurs, landowners, and in-world builders and service providers generated about $350 million US. So it's real money. It's a lot of money. A lot of that money granted went back into the platform for land use fees, but the exchange of the money is real. So it's different than a lot of other online social networks. What we're trying to show nonprofits with the Nonprofit Commons is that this is a viable marketplace and platform for education, volunteer recruitment, networking with real-life nonprofit organizations with similar missions, and for augmenting your communications, and most importantly, for showcasing your organization's work in a new way in which one can display an experience which isn't possible on the traditional 2D web. So you can get a sneak peek of what it all looks like if you go to youtube.com/secondlife. Our goal with the Nonprofit Commons really is to provide a free, easy entry point for nonprofits to join this always-on virtual community. We want to teach nonprofits how to use the tool to meet other like-minded organizations, to raise funds, to increase their volunteer base, and to explore innovation, and most importantly, to share their real-life work with the rest of the world on a platform within a community of support. And our weekly meetings that have been going on for over 4 years now are the pillar of our community. We kind of punctuate each week with this weekly meeting at 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Fridays. That's Pacific time, which is also Second Life time. We have an open hall event with speakers at the plush Nonprofit Commons Amphitheater, which you can search for. Or if you go to nonprofitcommons.org, you can learn about it. We have a wiki there. And nonprofits from across the globe meet every week to share stories of their work both in-world and in the physical world, which is what we call RL and SL in Second Life, which stands for real life or Second Life. So within those meetings, we help nonprofits share how Second Life and the technology of virtual world can better help them achieve their missions. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Renne to talk about the other benefits.
Yes, Renne, if you wouldn't mind, just to go through what are the benefits of the 3D world over the 2D social networking.
Yes. So Second Life is an immersive environment, and where that is different than the other social medias is that you are in a physical space. It's a dimensional space. Sound is dimensional. You can hear things. You can chat with people. You can have private conversations and public conversations. And what Second Life allows people to do is to create a community. Let's see. I'm trying to advance my slide.
If you don't mind, just keep going. I'll try to get it.
Can you advance it for me? Thanks. It's just grayed out on me. Thanks.
And if you could talk louder too.
Okay. So when we talk about creating a sense of community, we're familiar with the idea of that we have first places, which are our homes, and then we have second places, which are our place of work, and then really where community is built is within a third place. And in some cases, a third place could be a coffee shop, it could be a library, it could be, a place that people meet. And in Second Life, this is a place where people meet and build that relationship and create the community that they want to participate in. So when people enter Second Life, they have this opportunity to build an immersive environment that allows people to get that visual, tactile experience. And that they are able to then do it through cooperation. So you can see this picture right here. We have Jessica, Susan, and myself sitting down in front of a great audience at our Friday morning meetings, sharing with people. So we get to work together. We create connections, and you can see this big audience of people from all over the world who come to these meetings on Friday and share with us. There's also that bonding and cohesiveness, that people have a common cause, a common goal, and working together. And then we create collaboration opportunities. And you can see these empty seats right here. This is where you can join us. Another great thing about this is that it creates camaraderie. In a virtual space, in many respects, people connect a lot quicker than they would in a regular chat room. There's something about having that physicality that allows you to be connected with folks. And so in that case, when we use Second Life as a social media, what it allows us to do is use engagement to strengthen the brand of your organization, your school, your library, whatever your community mission might be. And we talk about branding, we think about, how do you articulate what your mission is? How are you going to share with people? And in a virtual environment, you can do this much better because people have something that they get to engage with. You can articulate your message distinctly. You can demonstrate your credibility. You can emotionally connect with your target audience. You can inspire participants. People will come in and they want to do. It's fantastic. And you can solidify loyalty. Now, through all of this, like Susan has spoken of, you are represented by an avatar. Your avatar is your brand, your spokesmodel, your mission embodied. And all of these avatars come in different forms, and you can decide entirely how you want to represent yourself. And you can see that they come in different forms. There's a few good-looking ones there. And when we talk about what your avatar is, this is the visual representation of yourself. And when I always describe with students, when they come into a virtual space and you're going to use it for social media, this is your chance to show your best self. And so we are going to encourage you to be able to come into Second Life and be that.
Well, this is a really great overview, and I love all the different pictures and the different scenes. It really helps illustrate what it's like in there. So let's talk about how an organization can integrate what happens in the virtual world with other social media tools.
Great. So the main goal of social media tools is to direct traffic to your website or your blog in order to encourage people to know what you're up to. So when we think about how you utilize Second Life with other social medias, you want to be able to come into the space and share with folks what you're up to. So I have a little saying here about how you can do that. Well, I like to create events, and I always say we do it through dance. What does dance mean? To develop active networking community experiences. That's what Second Life's about, is creating experiences. People will remember an event. People will remember a story. They will remember the connections they make with people. So when you hold these different events, I'm obviously not doing so great with my slides. Thanks, guys, for your patience with me. So we hold weekly events. During the weekly events, people have an opportunity to, exchange links, to be able to share with people their stories. We create note cards that have all kinds of information that you can pass from avatar to avatar. It's a fantastic medium to share with people. Also, people will build stories to inspire folks. So within the virtual environment, you're able to create essentially an office, a building, an exhibit that's going to share what your mission is. And when you do that, you have an opportunity to post photos of it on your Flickr photo stream, or maybe even share your story through like a CNN iReport. You can sponsor a fundraiser. You can post those important facts about your cause and the need for the support through Facebook. So as an event is coming up, you can encourage people through your Facebook groups and your fan pages to encourage people to participate in the fundraiser. And so when you're having an event, you want to be able to promote it broadly, not just inside the virtual space. You can host mixed reality panels. This picture is actually from the Second Life Community Conference, where we had an event happening in San Francisco, and then people could participate from all over the world in Second Life. And during an event like that, people can post tweets, and that you can foster connections using your hashtags and tiny URLs. And support educational events. So this is a great way of using your Google Groups to collaborate and promote different subjects and missions. And you can invite students to learn. Now, since I'm an educator, I like to push this kind of angle. What's fantastic is that, a lot of students will come into the virtual world and they'll be doing research, and you'll have opportunities to be interviewed by students to include in papers and slideshows and so forth. And when students do projects like this, then they'll post their information on SlideShare or wikis, or maybe in their local newspapers. You can partner for conferences. So you might want to create a LinkedIn group or build a blog in order to encourage people to participate and to connect. And you might be hitting those social networks by being on TV. Did you know Second Life has its own TV channel? There's lots of talk shows and game shows that give you an opportunity to share your mission when you get introduced. And what's fantastic is that you can participate in that, and then you can be posted on YouTube and on the channels. It's really fun. And of course, you can use multiple medias at the same time while you're in Second Life and brainstorm together. It's a wonderful way of getting lots of people together in an environment. So when you use Second Life, you want to be sure that you're broadcasting to all your other social medias as you do events, as you have meetings, as you encourage people to come and visit your virtual space. They're all connected.
Well, I know that there's a lot of folks out there that want to know what the best way to get started. So why don't you start telling us about that?
Yes, the best way of getting started is to think about what you want to do in the virtual world. Just like any other kind of social media campaign, you want to consider what you're going to do. And I want to encourage you to be patient with yourself. This is a new environment that you're going to be coming into. So give yourself time and encourage yourself as others encourage you. You have to remember you're among friends and allies, and they're going to be happy to help you out. So when you start off, these are the steps. You're going to go to secondlife.com, and here's a screenshot of it. And then what you'll do is you're going to join. And so when you join Second Life, you become a resident of Second Life. You'll fill out information about yourself. You'll put in your real name. And then also when you're creating your avatar, what happens in Second Life is you get to choose your first name, and then Second Life assigns a series of possible last names. And you can always go through and, hit it, go back and change, and find a last name that would be appropriate for you. Now, a lot of advice I give on when it comes to names, pick a name that might be easy to pronounce. And it usually helps out not to have a lot of numbers in your name. You also get to pick out a starter avatar. Now, your avatar can change all the time in Second Life, but your name is going to remain the same. So you want to be sure that you consider your name wisely. And then what will happen is that you'll sign up, it'll prompt you to go check your email, and then it'll encourage you to download the Second Life Viewer. And the Second Life Viewer is the application that you're going to use in order to enter Second Life. And of course, this is all done online. Then You're going to launch Second Life, and this gives you an opportunity to sign in as your avatar. So you have your avatar's first name and last name and your password. Now, I want to mention that when you are going to be launching into Second Life, you're going to have an opportunity to choose between going to Welcome Island or one of the community gateways. And we encourage you to come on in to the Nonprofit Commons Community Gateway. When you arrive, you'll be right here. And you can see this is the back of my avatar. So what happens in this space is it gives you a great chance to come on in and learn what the steps are to participate inside Second Life. It's a tutorial. And you can walk through the space, and it's numbered. And the great thing is that there's always going to be someone that might come on by and help you out. And don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, a lot of people are just so excited to share, and I'll tell you what, as an instructor, I just can't stop myself. I love teaching people how to use Second Life. When you're in the space, you want to be sure that you fill out your profile. And your profile is a mini bio about you and what you want to do in Second Life. And I encourage you to do this because this is how people learn about each other. You can come up to any avatar and click on the avatar and read their profile. And it's a great way of finding out, do you have something in common with someone? You know, are you on the same mission? Maybe you can help them out with something. So I encourage you to fill out your profile. And you can see my profile here. I have a picture of myself in Second Life and myself in real life. And of course, there's going to be all kinds of freebies and ways that you can interact in the space. Your inventory is going to be full of all kinds of stuff, as well as lots of people will be willing to give you landmarks and note cards and outfits and all kinds of goodies to make your experience really exciting. Now, when you're not in Second Life, you can also take tutorials, and Second Life has a YouTube channel where you can find tutorials on almost every subject you ever want to learn. And of course, like I said, you can ask anyone for help. You know, they really love to do that. And while you're inside Second Life, there are plenty of classes you can take as well. So, I encourage you to join us in Second Life, where validation and encouragement creates a cooperative community of responsibility, collaboration, and enthusiasm. So please come on back and join us at 2 o'clock so I can help you out. Create an avatar and join us in Second Life.
Thank you, Renne. That was fantastic. And again, they will have Renne and Jessica at 2 p.m. Pacific time hanging out at Nonprofit Commons, ready to help you get your first step started. So now I'd like to turn it over to Jessica and to find out, in what ways does the work in Second Life reverberate out to the real world?
That's a great question. There's a ton of different ways that that works. Just like any type of social media that we do, it kind of comes out and goes back in again. What I've got listed right here are a bunch of Second Life stats. I'm not going to read them all to you, but one of the things that's fantastic about Second Life is its ability to be international and to connect with people who are not near you in the physical world. That's also possible, obviously, through things like Facebook and through Twitter, but as both Susan and Renne stated, the connection that you have to avatars that you see regularly is quite a bit different than simple words on a screen, even within Facebook with pictures and things like that. What you can see here, too, is the Nonprofit Commons in Second Life. We get quite a number of unique visitors to Aloft in Plush and our other Sims as well. Those are two what are called Sims, which is basically 2 islands of nonprofits in world. A huge portion of those visitors are non-U.S. residents. So it's a great way for people who are in the United States or in any other country to connect with people in a totally different place. And we'll actually be talking about that in terms of a library in a little bit, and how people wind up knowing about what you're doing who would never have heard about you before. Another way that it reaches out, as Susan had mentioned, is through fundraising. It's not necessarily the best tool to come in and immediately think you're going to start fundraising in Second Life. Just like any other community tool, you have to first build a community, tell your story, and get people to understand why what you do is important. But that said, when something like Haiti happens, it winds up being a very good platform to raise money and to get the word out about what is being done, both in the real world and in the virtual world. And so Virtual Haiti raised $7,000, actually over $7,000 US dollars for Haiti relief. And let's see here, we're also getting about 2,000 visitors a month to the Nonprofit Commons. Some of you may have that on your websites, but a lot of you may not have that kind of traffic. And by creating an immersive environment like we have in Second Life, people are much more apt to really surf around and learn more about what you're doing. And by creating a community, if you were in Second Life right now, you'd see that we have about 37 people watching this webinar from InWorld. And those are all people who know each other and know a little bit about what each other's nonprofit does in a way that you don't necessarily just from perusing words and images at a website. One other way that, and there's lots of ways that Second Life reverberates out into the real world, but another thing that has happened quite recently was the TechSoup digital storytelling event. And using a tool like Second Life to help teach people how to do digital storytelling, to work together to make digital stories, that can be very overwhelming. Second Life can be very overwhelming, but the beautiful part about it, as Renne stated, is everybody that has ever been there has been a newbie at some point. And so you find in that community especially that people are extremely willing to help out, both in-world and out-world. So if you have a question about a tool that you're thinking about using, it winds up being a really great place because you already have this connection to talk with other people about that tool, to see if they've used it, to see what they're doing about it, and what kind of help you can get. You create a relationship that you just don't create in other worlds. And I think that's about all I have to say about the reverberating out into the real world, although I'm sure there's plenty of questions.
Sure, and we just had a couple other slides here. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to speak to in reference to the slides that are up?
Sure, yeah, we can talk about that. So we've got 3 groups right here that I'm focusing on. It's a fantastic way of doing support, Second Life is. One of the things that people don't really think about is there's a huge number of communities that are not able to meet necessarily in a real-world situation. The Boomer Esiason Foundation is a fantastic organization that honestly I personally did not know about until Second Life came along. And I didn't know about the fact that people with cystic fibrosis cannot actually meet up in a real-world environment due to their condition and basically making each other sick. So by knowing that now, I understand better how it is that their organization can use this tool to allow people to essentially meet up in a virtual environment rather than just sitting on, for example, a chat board or talking on Skype or something like that. You get to go and play with other people that you know. You get to go and talk and communicate visually with other people that you know. Preferred Family Healthcare offers a lot of intervention and support for different drug and alcohol issues. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Most of us know about things like Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. But that can be very intimidating to people who are seeking help, whether that be for a substance abuse issue or any kind of issue. And so allowing this kind of environment where you are anonymous allows you to go in and seek help that you might not seek in other ways. Virtualability, very similar in some ways to Boomer Esiason. I know quite a number of people who are part of Virtualability who are possibly bedridden or have issues with being able to be mobile. By being in Second Life, they're able to connect with each other and connect with other people that they would never be able to connect with in the real world situation. So it winds up being a very fantastic platform for supporting real life issues, and that can be even your nonprofit and getting word out to people that you might not be able to reach physically in a physical space.
Thank you. And this next slide is a representation of our webinar programs being streamed into Second Life, which is kind of interesting. Can you talk to this?
Yeah, sure. In fact, we have this very thing going on right now, except you would see a number more avatars at the moment. Like I said, we have about 37 people enrolled right now, so hello to all the Second Life people. And that's kind of a way that things go back in from the real world into Second Life and back out again. And so in this case, we've got a great webinar going on. People, instead of having to log into Ready Desk, can go into Second Life, watch this webinar going on, and if you were in Second Life right now, what you would see is there's a chat going on in World amongst the people who are there. So they're able to communicate about these different topics without necessarily having to interrupt anybody to ask questions. They can ask questions of themselves. And I believe Susan's going to be talking about this a little bit, but it's also a way to bring conferences and other events to people who can't go there in a physical space. So if there's a great conference going on, a lot of us with the current economy, especially nonprofits, can't afford to fly to all these different places to go to all these wonderful conferences that we would love to go to. This allows us to go there in a different way completely and still have an immersive environment like you do at a conference where you can share amongst other people that are attending, essentially.
Fantastic. So now we're going to talk about what kinds of nonprofits are working with TechSoup and libraries to utilize the Second Life platform.
Yeah. So the first one I'm doing is my own nonprofit community voicemail, and not just to self-promote here. But what I'm showing you right here is the upper part of our office. Down below this we have what looks like a more traditional office with kind of the traditional things talking about what we do. But upstairs here, what I've done is created an environment that's sort of a scavenger hunt. In other words, almost all of these items that you see in front of you, if you click on, tell you a story about community voicemail and why it is that what we do is important. And so just a really brief statement, basically what we do is provide voicemail to people who are homeless in transition. My little tagline for that is, it's hard to get a job or an apartment or keep in touch with your doctor when you don't have a phone number to give them. But a lot of people have questions about that. How do you access that? How, is it still necessary with cell phones? And so rather than just simply having words on a wall that tell people the answers to those questions, this gives them an immersive way and a fun way, a game way, to go around clicking on items and learning more about what we do in a way that's much more fun than me just babbling about it. So that's one of the ways that's fantastic for nonprofits, is they can use this world to create an environment that they can't necessarily create with a website or even in talking. It allows you a much more visual and fun and playful way to tell your story. Another fantastic organization that's with us at the Nonprofit Commons is the Rosa Documentation Center. And they are a nonprofit from the Netherlands. And I would never have known that they existed were it not for Second Life, primarily because there's a lot of nonprofits out there that you might not know about outside of this world. And again, this is a library. They use this as a fantastic way to take all of their documentation, put it into several different languages, and make it available to people who might not find it any other way. Also, because of their online presence and the fact that there is an avatar in World who can answer questions, not all the time, but regularly, they're able to really tell people about what they're doing and tell their story in a way that's very immersive. And so basically, you can't see it, but there's different stacks of books that have all the different things that they're doing in different languages for people to explore and figure out. And again, with most offices, there's a way to contact the person who's in charge of that office, so you can ask more questions as well. And then the final organization that I'm showing is the Sierra Club, which I think most people know who the Sierra Club is. What you can't see very well from this picture, and you almost can't see it from any size picture unless I were to zoom out, but I encourage anybody who's coming in, we can take you there to see how beautiful this office is. What you can almost see is that this is actually a tree house. And so the Sierra Club is not confined to the idea of an office looking like an office. They can actually set up a whole environment that includes things that are that make sense for their organization. So again, in this case, it's a tree house. It's very natural looking. It kind of helps with the idea of what they're trying to get at, what they're trying to save, and their mission. mission is in and of itself. So the actual office itself winds up being part of the mission and the visual representation of the mission.
That is really, really cool. We have just a minute or two to talk about the technical requirements and the system requirements so that we can make sure to have enough time for Q&A.
Sounds good. Don't have too much to say here anyway. Basically, the account is free. It costs virtually nothing to build a location. There's lots of people to help you, as both Zinnia and, as both Renne and Susan stated. You'll often hear all of us refer to each other in our Second Life avatar names as well as our personal actual names. It's one of those things that goes back and forth. The Nonprofit Commons offers a free office space, but it can be bandwidth intensive. When we look at the system requirements, you do need to have a relatively new computer. Most of the new computers can handle Second Life pretty well these days, but if you have something that's very old, it probably isn't going to work well. Those are the basic requirements for either Mac or Linux or Windows, and you can get more information online at that link that is up there, the Second Life support system requirements. I'll tell you a lot more about the different things that are required to go on into World.
Great. And now I'm going to toss it back to Susan. What does the Nonprofit Commons offer to nonprofits and libraries?
So the Nonprofit Commons offers free virtual office space to nonprofits and social benefit organizations. And we also provide advisory services, classes, workshops, our meetings as we mentioned, and we teach nonprofits how to use the tool for fundraising, et cetera. And as we mentioned earlier, we have a global audience and quite impressive stats. If you think about the time spent on a traditional two-dimensional website versus the time spent in Second Life, you can see that the amount of time and the amount of commitment from the nonprofits is quite impressive. Looking forward, I just wanted to briefly mention what our plans are. So we wanted to move the Nonprofit Commons outside of just the virtual walls of Second Life and move it into the serious and social gaming community. So we're hoping to launch a partnership with Games for Change. We're still talking to them about this, but the idea is that we hope to have a community of nonprofits and game developers to create a serious social game that has a social change awareness campaign angle to it. So education being the focal point. So this is part of a larger goal to organize a community practice within the serious social gaming, Games for Change kind of people, a concept that's been proven by the Nonprofit Commons. We're going to introduce the concept in kind of a big brainstorm meetup on the 23rd of May in New York City. So you happen to be there in the late afternoon, early evening, we're interested in having you there and join us for the conversation. The location is still to be determined. We're waiting on some venues, but if you want to sign up, you can just join our Google group at groups.google.com/NPC Games. That's for Nonprofit Commons Games. And we also, so that would be one way that we want to grow the Nonprofit Commons, but we also want to grow our existing vertical communities. So we have EcoCommons, which is our environmental organizations island, and we want to have more events and more educational campaigns around this island. And we're looking to have a new organization help us manage and bring in more environmental orgs into it. And in addition, we want to expand our Health Commons island to create a partnership with Public Health International. Partnering for Health would be the name of the partnership. And what this would be doing is within the next year or two, bringing in health-related immersive educational campaigns and events to reach a new, larger audience of members. So for example, nutritional awareness campaigns would take place in this platform. So expanding what the Public Health International PHI.org already does into the virtual world and giving them new opportunities to share with the existing members of the Nonprofit Commons. And also, finally, we want to expand our mixed reality event program and have more multi-platform events. Just to give you a little bit of a explanation on what we do in that. The core activity with Nonprofit Commons is really events. And we've kind of pioneered and mastered a way to stream audio and video live in 2 directions, creating a mixed or blended reality experience. So what that means is that if you're in the virtual world, you're seeing what's coming in via audio and video on a screen in the real world. So you're seeing what's going on in the real world in the virtual world. And similarly, if you're in the real world, you're seeing a projection of what's going on, the people watching you in the virtual world, and you can actually see a screen of yourself. So I'll just go back 2 screens now, 3 screens to show you. Right here, if you can see, that would be the experience from the virtual world. And so it creates this kind of portal between the virtual and the real world and ends up having an experience which expands the communications of that kind of event. What it does for us is it creates a way for us to broadcast our free programming into the virtual world, and also to create a new level of discourse, a back channel. So as you know, we're broadcasting this webinar right now into Second Life, but we also do this with our live monthly online community meetups that we hold in San Francisco, and we also do this with our weekly webinars. And what it does is it eliminates the need for travel and extends our reach beyond our geographical boundaries and limitations. The additional interesting component is, as I mentioned, we have this added benefit of a back channel. So those of you in Second Life are actually being able to discuss amongst each other, whereas somebody who's listening on their own computer by themselves to the webinar wouldn't have that possibility to have a kind of back channel discourse. And of course, we have the additional back channel of Twitter. So we're trying to kind of expand the concept of online events beyond the traditional online event modality that has been going on in the past. And finally, we just want to make sure that we bring all of this fantastic content back from Second Life to TechSoup and make it shareable for all of you to see on your existing online social networks and websites. We really want Second Life to become one of a constellation of many online social networks that we have a presence on, and we teach you how to have a presence on. We're not just trying to sell the virtual world, but to show you that it's a very important component of a deck of many online social networks have a presence on. So finally, I just wanted to, while we ask our Q&A, to give you some key links to start with, and I will hand it back to Cami.
Great. Thank you, Susan, so much. I have a new appreciation for Second Life after all that fantastic information and the imagery. So we have a lot of questions, some of which have been answered via the Q&A, but I'll start picking from the ones I think are being asked most frequently. So people are curious about viruses, and if you're accepting freebies, the things that people give you in Second Life, could you get a virus? So I'm going to shoot that question to Jessica.
That's a great question. It is always possible, but it's usually fairly unlikely. Most of those items would have to have a lot of scripts in them, and it has happened. But honestly, I have never had that happen to me personally, and I've never experienced anybody that does that. Usually those types of things are items that are being what's called rezzed or put down. If you think about like bringing home an item from the store and putting it in your house, that kind of thing. That's what we say when we say rezzed. Basically, those types of items would be things that somebody else had put down that might try to steal your money from you. At the Nonprofit Commons and most SIMs or most islands now, basically it's impossible for anybody else to put an item down without your permission. So it's very, very unlikely that I've ever seen an item that you might take from somebody else do that. It's always a possibility, but I personally have not witnessed it.
Great, thank you for that. Question about having the time to do this, and I'll see if Renne could answer this. The question is from, I guess someone's at a library. Does anyone have any recommendations about timing? What I mean by this is I'm blocked at work and want to explore library-related groups when I'm at home, but most of the meetings groups I've seen occurred during the day. So what suggestions, Renne, do you have for FRIA?
Well, I would suggest that, it's a fair thing for you to say, I would like to be able to access this media when I'm at work. This is part of being a professional, is to have an opportunity to engage with people in social media. So when you're at work, you should encourage them to allow you to participate. At the same time, when it comes to working inside the virtual world, you want to give yourself extra time. So spending time at home setting up your system, and someone asked if you have a different account for home and personal. It's exactly the same account. You can set it up at home or at work. And when you're at home, you can start engaging with the folks that you would want to participate with. If you can't attend the meetings because you're at work, maybe you should encourage them to allow you to develop a new meeting that you can attend. And I bet you won't be the only one who wants to be able to do that. A lot of our social meetings happen after hours when people are at home, and they still are able to engage and use those things that we do at those meetings professionally.
Thank you. And this one, Susan, if you wouldn't mind answering, there's several questions about meetings and board meetings and how would I set up a meeting. So what suggestions would you give for folks who are interested in setting up a meeting to host a board meeting or to offer information?
Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So hosting a meeting, if they're a nonprofit, they can host a meeting whenever they want in the Nonprofit Commons as part of what we provide. I wasn't really very clear. What I said was that we provided kind of a free virtual office space, but we also provide meeting space for all organizations and anybody interested in joining to use the tool. So if anyone wants to set up a meeting, just get in touch with us. You can email nonprofitcommons@TechSoup.org, and we'll put you in touch with everybody to help you get a slide presentation together and set you up with everything you need. We'll get a vision for what you want, and you can just go ahead and start. It's pretty easy. All they have to do is set up an avatar and get in touch with us. I guess the starting point would be email nonprofitcommons@TechSoup.org, and it's free and we'll help you.
Great, thank you. And there's some questions about cost. I know everyone's saying it's free, but it does take time to set it up. That's why someone earlier said it was virtually free. But there must be some cost to it. Let's see, Renne, if you wouldn't mind speaking to this. If I wanted to set up an office space and put in fancy pictures or something, would that cost me money, or where would money start coming into play?
Well, money comes into play when you're considering how you want to customize the experience. To be able to bring in images into Second Life, so for example, your logo, you need to have Linden dollars in order to upload those images, and so it's like 10 Linden dollars. And when it comes to exchange rate, $1 equals about 260 Linden dollars, so it's not a huge cost. There are a lot of things that people can get in as far as free objects that are in your inventory automatically, or there are developers who are willing to give objects away that are free that you could decorate your office with and so forth. But when it comes to trying to create a custom office or a space or an avatar, then that's when using a little bit of money makes the difference. And there are a lot of people and a lot of developers who are there to help you out in the Nonprofit Commons to customize the experience.
Very good, thank you. And Jessica, a question from Tamira. Are there differences in uptake among different age groups?
There can be. What I've noticed and what I've read regarding Second Life is that primarily the age group tends to be mid-20s and older. Again, 30s and 40s tend to be the vast majority of people on Second Life, but there's a huge range. And there's quite a number of people all the way up into retirees and people who are college students. A lot of colleges use Second Life to educate. So it really just depends. I think obviously there's a teen SL grid, so you're not going to be in regular Second Life if you are a teen. But it really does vary greatly. There is definitely not a specific age range like you might see with different tools like MySpace or something like that.
And for Susan, earlier Renne mentioned how you can promote out to your social networks that you're in Second Life, but is there a way to, within Second Life, promote your other social networking channels?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. We have certain tools. The thing about Second Life, I mentioned earlier that you don't need to be a techie to join. And what I mean by that is as long as you have an idea, you can get someone else to build it for you. And Renne had talked about Linden dollars. What you all need to know is that the amount of money in your Linden avatar wallet is never going to be more than about $8. You're not going to spend a lot of money to do this. So for example, there are tools that people have to bring in, like let's say your Facebook fan page, or to bring in an RSS feed of your blog or your Twitter RSS feed into the virtual world. And those tools are created by tech geniuses who just want to create and explore in Second Life, and they're innovators. So they don't charge a lot. Nothing in Second Life, even if it is a cost, really costs very much. So you might be able to buy those tools. You just have to go into X Street SL, which is the marketplace, and it might be like $1 for a tool like that. But having said that, we also have something called Office in a Box for Nonprofit Commons members, which is part of what we provide in creating this community of practice for nonprofits. Is we also provide the tools, not just the space and not just the structure. So by that, what I mean is that when you join us, we'll hook you up with an Office in a Box. And in that Office in a Box, it comes with a lot of free tools. So don't buy anything without asking us first, because that's what we're here for. So yes, there are tools, and we're happy to teach you how to use them. And the Friday meetings, when everybody shows up at these Friday meetings at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Second Life time, we can help you out there. There are a lot of people who are mentors there to help you get started. And also one final note, I'm sorry. One final note is that there is a community tag, which if those of you are on Twitter and Flickr and YouTube and you know about tagging, the tag NPSL stands for Nonprofits in Second Life. You can also go on Delicious and look at NPSL. So if you see stuff tagged NPSL across the web, you'll know that that has to do with what we're talking about. So that's an additional, and of course looking at other tags on Delicious like Second Life.
Great, thank you. I just want to remind everyone that at 2 p.m. today, in roughly 2 hours from now, Renne and Jessica will be in World to help you get started. So if you have specific questions about how do I do this, that's when you'll have 2 people to help you. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that. So one question for Renne. Can you limit attendees to a meeting if there's someone disruptive? Or how do you deal with people who might be causing a problem?
That's a great question. What happens is that when someone is in the virtual environment, you are in different islands or sims. And each one of those spaces can be divided up into estates and parcels. And what happens is you have an estate manager that takes care of some of those things that happen. So if you want to limit the amount of avatars that can come into a place, an estate manager can set that up so you can say only 40 people can be in this place. And at the same time, when you start having disruptive people, they can be ejected from the space as well as that they can be banned from the space. So they can never come into that area and bother you again. It's a great method of crowd control. And it allows you to have private meetings.
A couple questions have to do with, can I have a personal account and a work account? Jessica, can you address that?
Sure. That's definitely something you can do. A lot of people will have their own personal avatar and a work avatar. You don't have to do that. And it's sort of similar to whether or not you're friends with your coworkers on Facebook. You kind of think about that as the same way. It may be that if your work is not regularly accessing Second Life, that several people would use the same avatar. They don't necessarily suggest that for the same reason that you wouldn't have one thing set up for Facebook a lot of times. Having that personalization, knowing who is behind that avatar lends a lot of credibility and transparency to folks. But it's definitely possible you can have more than one avatar, absolutely.
And one final question, and this has to do with specifically public libraries. So Susan, if you could tell us what are the benefits for public libraries in Second Life?
Yeah, actually that's a great question and a good one to end on, because just to bookend the Nonprofit Commons experience, we started with the library community in Second Life. I started by going to Information Island, which is run by Lori Bell, and saw what she was doing and thought, you know what, I want to do that for nonprofits. So the best thing for you to do is to go and check out Information Island, and you can actually Google Information Island Second Life and look at their website as well. Just like our Nonprofit Commons website and wiki, they've got a great web presence. What public libraries are doing in Second Life, very, very briefly, being mindful of time, is they are having their online collections digitized and available, and there are librarians sitting there at desks at Information Island to answer questions. So every library has like a virtual office in the same way that Nonprofit Commons does on Information Island. And you can go there and check it out, walk around, and I think even the TechSoup Libraries program has an office there as well. So I am Lori Bell, and look for Information Island.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan and Renne and Jessica. This was fantastic information, and I apologize to those of you whose questions didn't get answered. We had about probably a dozen more questions that had to be answered. So if you still want to ask that question, we've got our community forums. You'll get a link to that in the post-event survey that will pop up when I close the webinar window. So post that question to the forums, or go to at 2 p.m., log in, you'll receive a link to that to learn more and ask, and then we'll also give you an email, nonprofitcommons@techsoup.org, if you have questions. So again, here's a link to the forum, and we'll be sending that out. If you're new to TechSoup, we've got discounted software, community forums where volunteers are answering questions, and lots of events that are posted, as well as articles and a blog and NetSquared and Second Life. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So check out all that we have to offer at TechSoup.org. Next week's webinar, Make It Easy to Give, taking online donations. I'll be hosting that one again at 11 a.m. next Thursday. And we would like to thank ReadyTalk, which donates the use of their service to help TechSoup expand awareness of technology throughout the nonprofit sector. ReadyTalk helps nonprofits and libraries in the U.S. and Canada reach geographically dispersed areas and encourage collaborations through their audio conferencing and web conferencing services. So again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and the presenters for creating such a great webinar today, and the folks helping out on the chat and in Second Life. If you have any questions, you can call or email me, and please take a minute to fill out our post-event survey. So thanks again. Have a wonderful day. Hope you can make it at 2 o'clock to try out your avatar. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Please stand by.